Picture this. You're standing out in an open field, and you literally have to choose to be hit by one of two things. A 2,000-kilogram elephant charging at you at 7.5 meters per second, or a tiny 0.04-kilogram tranquilizer dart, fired at an absolutely blinding 600 meters per second. So, which one has more impact?
Now, I know what you're thinking. That dart is flying so unbelievably fast, it might seem like a trick question. But the answer actually lies in the ultimate decider of all collisions in physics, and the elephant completely dominates. In fact, that charging elephant has over 600 times more of a crucial physical property called momentum.
By the end of this explainer, you are going to deeply understand this concept. We'll be looking at the force of a collision, defining linear momentum, calculating mass versus velocity, unlocking Newton's true second law, applying force to momentum, and wrapping up with a summary and a final question. Let's dive in.
Section 1. The force of a collision, the intuitive meaning. Okay, before we get completely lost in the strict math, let's just establish a real-world intuition for this. Think of a massive group of rugby players colliding and crashing to the ground. In everyday language, we might say a sports team is gaining momentum to win the game. Well, in physics, momentum essentially means an object's tendency to just continue on its course. It's that completely unstoppable feeling you associate with great mass and great speed.
Section 2. Defining linear momentum, the quantity of motion. So let's transition from that everyday idea of a tendency to continue to the precise scientific definition that physicists actually use.
Linear momentum is quite simply the product of a system's mass multiplied by its velocity. What this brilliantly illustrates is that momentum is directly proportional to both of these factors. You increase the mass, momentum goes up. You increase the speed, momentum goes up. And this is exactly why a large, fast-moving object entirely dominates smaller, slower ones in a collision.
Let's actually build this out step by step so you can see the mechanics of it. Step 1, we take the mass, which we represent with a lowercase m. Step 2, we multiply it by the velocity, v. Step 3, that gives us our momentum, which physicists represent with a lowercase p. So the absolute golden rule here is P equals mv. And hey, quick note for your notes. Because we measure mass in kilograms and velocity in meters per second, the official standard unit for momentum is the kilogram meter per second.
Section 3. Calculating mass versus velocity, player versus ball. Let's make this formula totally concrete and see exactly how mass and velocity balance each other out in a classic sports scenario.
Consider this comparison. You've got a massive 110-kilogram football player running at a moderate 8 meters per second. That gives him a momentum of 880 kilogram meters per second. Now compare that to a tiny 0.41 kilogram football. It's thrown incredibly fast at 25 meters per second. But if we multiply that out, its momentum is only 10.3. Despite the ball's blistering speed, the massive player's momentum dwarfs the ball's by an 85-to-1 ratio. This is exactly why when that player catches the ball on the run, his forward motion is barely even affected. Mass fundamentally matters.
Now, right about now, you might be asking a really common question. Wait, so how can a small force impart the exact same momentum to an object as a massive force? It's a fantastic question. And the secret ingredient here? It's time. A very small force applied over a very long period of time can build up to match a massive force that's applied only for a split second. Keep this relationship between force and time in the back of your mind, because it leads us perfectly into our next concept.
Section 4. Newton's true second law, the secret formula. Okay, if you've ever taken a basic physics class, you've probably had F equals ma. Force equals mass times acceleration drilled into your brain. But here's the crazy part. Isaac Newton didn't actually write his famous second law that way.
Historically, Newton stated his law exactly like this. The net external force equals the change in momentum of a system divided by the time over which it changes. You see, Newton considered momentum so incredibly vital to the mechanics of the entire universe that he famously called it the quantity of motion.
Let's break down Newton's original logic piece by piece. Step 1, you take the change in momentum. That's delta P. Step 2, you divide it by the change in time, delta T. Step 3, this equals the net force. F net equals delta P over delta T. So, the ultimate takeaway here is this. Force is intimately related to how quickly you change an object's momentum.
But hold on, let's do a quick reality check. Why does this distinction even matter? Well, what if the mass of an object literally changes while it's moving? Think of a rocket launching into space. It's constantly burning and ejecting massive amounts of fuel, so its mass is dropping rapidly every single second. That basic F equals ma formula? It totally fails here because m is not constant. But Newton's true formula, focusing on the change in momentum, works perfectly for rockets.
Section 5. Applying force to momentum. Venus-Williams serve. Let's take all this theory we've been talking about and connect it to a real-life scenario by calculating the explosive force behind one of the fastest serves in tennis history.
Back during the 2007 French Open, tennis legend Venus Williams hit a ball at a jaw-dropping 58 meters per second. That is almost 210 kilometers per hour. So using Newton's true second law, how much average force did her racket actually exert on that tennis ball?
Let's map this out together. Step 1. We find the change in momentum. A standard tennis ball weighs 0.057 kilograms. We multiply that by her final speed of 58 meters per second. That gives us a momentum change of 3.3 kilogram meters per second. Okay, step 2. We divide by time. That ball was only on the strings of her racket for 5 milliseconds. That's 0.005 seconds. When we divide 3.3 by that tiny fraction of time, the result is a staggering 660 newtons of force. This brilliantly illustrates how a small change in momentum, squeezed into a microscopic amount of time, results in an absolutely massive physical force.
Section 6. Summary and final question. Wrapping up. We have covered a lot of ground today, from charging elephants to rockets to Venus Williams. Let's wrap this up and lock in the key concepts we just learned.
Here are your absolutely crucial takeaways. First, momentum, pa, simply equals mass times velocity. Second, it's a vector quantity, which means the direction the object is traveling absolutely matters. Third, force is what changes momentum over time. And finally, Newton's true second law is F net equals the change in momentum divided by the change in time. These principles matter deeply because momentum is actually one of the few completely conserved quantities in all of nature. Before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. As we just saw, force applied over time changes momentum. But what exactly happens when a massive force strikes an object in a single, nearly instantaneous fraction of a second? Like, how do we mathematically measure that violent shockwave? Well, that phenomenon is called impulse, and it is absolutely fascinating. Be sure to check out our next explainer, where we will break that exact concept down step by step. Keep learning, and I'll see you in the next